key here is like the entire first page is your distance formula. So you have to know your distance formula. All right. So whether they give it to you with 2 points or whether they give it to you as a picture, you're just going to plug in that to the formula. All right. So if I were to look at these two, for this first one, x1, y1, x2, y2, you literally just plug it in. So I'm going to say x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And then you're just going to simplify it. 4 minus a negative 6 is 10. Negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. So I'm going to get the square root of 136. All right. They've reduced it here. At this point, you would put it into your calculator and round to the nearest tenth. Okay? So you just do one. You would just figure out what points you have. Like this is 2, negative 3. So that's your point, 2, negative 3. This point is 3, negative 5. So then my second set of point is 3, negative 5. I'm going to do exactly what I did, plug it into my distance formula. So it doesn't matter if I hand you the points or I give you a picture, you're still using the 2 points and your distance formula to solve for it. All right, so midpoint formula. Midpoint is just adding them up. So you say x1 plus x2 over 2 is going to be the x value of your midpoint. And y1 plus y2 over 2 is going to be the y value of your midpoint. And so your answer is going to be the point itself. So these are simple. Literally, you're just going to do the same thing. x1, y1, x2, y2. Add it. That would be 2 over 2. So my x value is going to be 1. And negative 6 plus 4 over 2. Negative, oh, no, not plus 4. Do my y values, by the way. 8 plus 4 over 2 is going to be 6. So my answer is going to be 1, 6. Right? That's easy. So then in the second one, you're doing really the same thing, except they gave you the xy. So for this one, they gave you the endpoint and the midpoint. So that means this is my x1, y1, but this is my xy of my midpoint. So that means I have 2 plus some x2 value that I don't know over 2 equals my x value. And then I have my y plus my second y that I don't know over 2 equals my y value of my midpoint. All right, so they've just given you the xy of your midpoint and then one of your endpoints, and you're solving for the other one. So you're doing the same exact formula. They just gave you these guys. They gave you what you solved for. They didn't give you your second point. So you're just going to solve this. You're just going to multiply both sides by 2. So I get 2x plus that x value equals 4. Subtract 1. My x value is going to be 2. Multiply by 2 from this side. Negative 7 plus y2 is going to be negative 18. Add my y2 is negative 11. So the other endpoint is going to be 2, negative 11. They gave me the endpoints. I'm just solving back into it. Okay. So your slope formula is going to be y2 minus y1, subtract your y's, over x2 minus x1. So for this one, again, just label your points. You're going to, numerator is always the y's. So you're going to say 6 minus 15 over your x's. If this was your y2 and that's your y1, this has to go first again. 13 minus negative 7. So 6 minus 15 gives me negative 9 over 13 minus negative 7 is 20. If I could reduce that, I would. Never do a mixed number. Leave it as a fraction. But if you can reduce it, reduce it. If you can't, that is your answer. So to find your intercepts, you just make the other guy 0. So the first thing it wants is x and y intercept. So for your x-intercept, you literally just plug in a 0 for y. So I'm going to say 5x plus 0. Plug in a 0 for y equals 5. And solve for x. Well, x here is going to equal 1, which is why I'm going to plot that point 1. right there. So you would plot the 1. Y-intercept. Well, for that one, you make your x 0. 5 times 0 plus y equals 5. Well, this zeroes out, y equals 5. You'll notice you're going to plot that point. Y-axis is 5. And then to graph it, you're literally just going to connect those dots. So you're just going to say, connect these dots here, and that is how I get my line. This is very simple. They want you to list your slope. Well, your slope is always the guy in front of the x. So you're going to tell me my slope then is 5/2. And then they want the y-intercept. The y-intercept is always the guy that's over here after the x, plus or minus the number. So my y-intercept for this guy is going to be -2. That's one of your points for this. It's pretty straightforward. Just give me the slope, give me the y-intercept, okay? To graph it, you start with your y-intercept. The y-intercept is on your y-axis. So I'm going to go to -2 on my y-axis and put a dot. Then my slope tells me how to move. The numerator of my slope tells me if I'm going up or down. The denominator tells me if I'm going left or right. So this is a positive slope, so I'm going to go up. Positive slopes are either both positive or both negative movements. So I'm going to start at the -2, and I'm going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to go right to 1, 2, and I'm going to put a second point right here. So I'm going to put my second point up 5 over 2. Once I have 2 points, I can graph my line. I simply connect to those 2 points. You must know this equation because all of your answers from here on out are in that form. So for this one, you automatically know your m. They gave you your m. Right here is your m. So you automatically know what that's going to be. The other one we have to fill out when we do this form is my b. Well, I don't know my b. They did not tell me what my y-intercept was. However, they gave me an xy, so I can solve for it. So I can take this and I can say this is my x and that is my y. So I'm going to say y equals m times x plus b. And then I'm just going to solve for my b. These 5s will cancel, so I get -3 equals -6 plus b. Add 6 to both sides. B equals 3. So now I know my m, which is up here, and I know my b. So my final step here is to write y equals m x plus b. And that is my answer here. All right, so for the first one, basically they're asking the same question we just did. They just didn't hand you the slope. So you're going to have to use your slope formula here to solve for it. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Solve for your slope first. So I would say -3 minus a -2 over 0 minus a -3. So I would say -1 over 3. -1/3 is my slope, okay? And then I can literally use either point to do this, all right? Just a little clue. If they give you a point that is 0, -3, that is your y-intercept. Remember, your y-intercept is wherever it is 0, wherever x is 0. So if they happen to give you like 0, -3, you can actually just use -3 as your y-intercept. But let's say they didn't give you your y-intercept handed to you with like a bow on it, right? Then you're going to do exactly what we just did. Y equals m, my slope, x plus b. And you can use either one of these to do that. Either point you can use to solve for b. All right? So these are going to cancel and it's going to be positive. So I have that b equals -2, which -1 plus b, equals 1 plus b. Subtract my 1, b is going to equal -3. So they actually handed that to us, but you may not get one that gives you the 0 already. So you can pick either point and plug it in and find out what your b is. And then your final answer is going to be to rewrite it. Y equals m, use the slope you found, x plus b. And since it's -3, I'm just going to say -3 there. For this last one, they actually gave you the slope. If it is parallel to this line, then they will have the same slope. So they already gave you your slope. Your slope here is going to be 1/5. So they gave it to you. Had this been perpendicular, you just flip it upside down and negate it. So if this is said perpendicular to this line, if this had been perpendicular to that line, which is like the next group, then your slope would be -5. Flip it upside down and change it to the opposite. But either way, they gave you the slope by handing you this equation. You do not care about this part at all. You don't care about the -2. It does not affect you at all. You only care about the slope of that line. And so you're going to do exactly what we did up here. Y, that's -3, equals m, x, that was 5, plus b. The 5s will cancel. -3 equals 1 plus b. Subtract your 1. B equals -4. So now I have my m and my b. Y equals m x plus b.